In the Slag Galaxy, 8 megaparsecs from Earth, soldiers under Captain Sin's command board an unknown cargo ship. As they look around, they notice the technology seems a bit rudimentary, almost obsolete. Suddenly, they hear a noise. As they get closer, they taunt the unknown life form. "Welcome to the Interstellar Brotherhood of War Workers," one of them shouts. Back on the bridge, the pilots can only hear the recruiters screaming, "Watch out! It's got claws and some kind of wings!" Captain Sin appears, smiling darkly. "Sounds like we fished ourselves an exuberant recruit. Where's this alien now?" Aboard the hangar, Batman appears, moving fast while blending into the smoke, evading every shot fired at him. Captain Sin orders the Riobots to be deployed. They can't afford to lose this species, since their quota is already behind. As the new forces appear, they demand the unknown alien restrain himself before they engage. Minutes later, one of the pilots nervously tells Captain Sin that the Riobots appear to be meeting resistance. "Exactly what sort of resistance?" he asks. With a chainsaw, Batman is cutting every machine in half. Furious, Sin sends firestormers to hold the perimeter as he decides to take matters into his own hands. As Batman fights through the flames, he finds himself surrounded. Every direction he looks is blocked. As he lowers his fighting stance, he hears a grave voice in the distance. Nobody touches him. "The alien is mine." Now face to face, Captain Sin smiles and adds, "So you're what all this trouble is about? What even are you?" Batman looks at him directly without saying a word and charges his electric knuckles, punching him square in the face. However, Sin doesn't move an inch. He only smiles back. Hours later, Batman finally wakes up, trying to recover his consciousness. Jesus, he hit me 3 times, and I can only remember 2. As he tries to stand, he sees different alien races staring at him warily. He braces himself, ready to fight, but before a punch can be thrown, a girl steps forward. "Well, look at that. Guess you ain't done dying after all." The Tamaranian woman tells Batman that he now owes her. Batman asks how she learned English, how it's possible that they can communicate. "What kind of podunk planet are you from? You never had a lingo chip before?" As he checks his equipment, she tells him not to bother. Any weapon he had was taken long ago. All they left behind were his pretend wings. She suddenly steps closer and tells him that if he ever wants to see Starlight again, he should move when she signals him. She and the others are planning an escape. Batman walks past her. "I'm not interested." What do you mean, not interested? You don't want to escape this place?" she asks. As Batman looks out at the vast galaxy through a window, he answers coldly, "No, I paid $532 million for a one-way trip, under the excuse of developing commercial spaceflight technology. I had no choice." As the days pass aboard the Warstorm, he begins to learn the layout of the installation. One day, while cleaning a corridor, he asks, "Tell me about the captain." Beside him, tossed in the garbage, lies a half-functional punchbot. With a serious tone, Batman asks, "Where are beings like him from? And what do you know about their physiology?" Before the bot can answer, Ione interrupts them and tells Batman to stop wasting time talking to a piece of junk. All he needs to know is that Sin is a strong Akarian who makes his money selling stormers to the Black Sun Mining Company. As she talks to Batman, the punchbot identifies her and starts giving a summary of her report. Ione of Tamaran, storm chaser, paid to hunt and apprehend escaped recruits of the Warstorm, sentenced to death. Immediately, Ione kicks the robot, telling it to shut up. Then she turns her attention back to Batman, saying that now it's his turn to answer her questions, but he ignores her again. "I watch you, you know, while the others laugh at you for getting beaten by the guards every day, and you just take it to the face. They think they're using you for training, but I think it's you who's using them to learn. I bet this is your first time setting foot off-world, in the Slag Galaxy, but there's something that makes men do stupid things. Love. If you want to survive the Warstorm, you better think of that love every picosecond while you're trapped in here." As Batman calmly continues cleaning the floor, Ione keeps talking. "Tell me, this lover of yours that's worth being locked up with a ship full of space-crazed psychopaths, they got themselves a name?" The image of Gotham City appears in Bruce's mind. He remembers, a year ago, fighting members of the Irish mob. As he beats down the henchmen, Batman shouts to the leader, "You should have gotten the message when I tore through the other families." "Oh, I got the message loud and clear, Batman. I knew you were coming for me and mine," replies the mob boss with a smile. "I figured my boys here wouldn't be much of a match for you, so I hired some new muscle, and he's from way out of town." As Batman lets go of the rope holding the helicopter, a figure appears in front of him, an enemy he has never seen before. The Akarian looks down at Batman and tells him that he doesn't understand why everyone is so terrified of him. He wouldn't last a day in the Slag Galaxy. Bruce drops into a fighting stance and without hesitation attacks first. Back in the present, the punchbot teaches him some weaknesses of the Akarians, specifically the area above the kidney. However, it mentions that Batman's punches are far too negligible failed to inflict any significant damage. Batman frowns, serious, and says, "Don't just tell me that. Show me how they fight. Hit me." The punchbot pauses, looking directly at him. "You mean punchbot can punch back?" "Yes," says Batman. "Fight me like they would. First the Akarians, then every alien species in your database. In seconds, the punchbot begins to hit him. With every punch Batman receives, memories flash through his mind of how he was unable to respond to these new threats. As blood leaks from beneath his mask, he looks at the punchbot and adds, "I am not anywhere close. Not yet." Days later, he was assigned with a group of prisoners to clean the turbines that were clogged with space debris. As the group made their way out, the engines were activated immediately, causing the fire to shake the platform. Minutes later, Batman emerged with some of the prisoners he had helped. However, one of the guards walked toward him, furious. "You stupid! What do you think you're doing?" Batman replied that he was asked to clean the turbines, and that's what he did. "You did it wrong," shouted the guard. No one died. He grabbed one of the prisoners by the neck as a way to show Batman how things worked around here, lifting him above his head, ready to throw him into the fire. Batman's expression filled with determination, as if he had been waiting for this moment. He remembered the punchbot training. "That is better, Batman, but you are still not sufficiently killing me," said the bot. Batman stepped back and replied that he does not kill. If he must, he only incapacitates. "I don't understand. Why else would Batman punch?" replied the bot. "Your lingo chip must be malfunctioning." Suddenly, Ione appeared through the ventilation system. "What are you doing here?" Bruce asked. Ione told him he wasn't the only one sneaking around sometimes. She had already saved some supplies for her big escape, and he should reconsider her offer. Coldly, Batman said no again and continued training. The punchbot shifted its configuration to mimic a Branks fighting style when Ione interrupted. "You're fighting a Branks and going for the nerve clusters in the neck? You're doing it wrong." Ione stepped forward quickly and struck the punchbot. Branks males are super vain when it comes to their tusks, some kind of mating ritual. "You want to hurt them? You go for the teeth." "Let me guess," Batman said seriously. "You teach me to fight? I help you escape?" Ione smiled back, saying that if he lived that long, why not? But in the meantime, they could do it for fun. Batman got into a fighting position and asked the punchbot how he could defeat a Tamaranian. Before the robot could answer, Ione punched him. "No, this fight. You fight on your own." Back in the present, Batman followed Ione's training. He went straight for the teeth, throwing the guard off balance, then grabbed his own weapon and struck him directly in the face, knocking him out. In seconds, the corridor filled with guards, ready to take him on. The rest of the prisoners could only see him as a hero, echoing his name among themselves. As he prepared for the next encounter, another flashback crossed his mind. Ione lunged at him, striking him in the chest. "Stop thinking about where you were, and think about where you are." Batman punched back. "What about you? Why is a bounty hunter sentenced to death by the people she hunts for? I know you secretly give food to the weakest and hungriest prisoners." As they keep training, Ione told him that if he wanted to know her story, he would have to beat her first. As the two rested, she handed Batman a bottle of rum. He said he didn't drink. Raising an eyebrow, she looked at him and added, "Don't drink, don't kill. Hell, next you'll tell me you don't use guns." After a long pause, she laughed, saying he clearly picked the wrong galaxy. Back in the present, Batman sat in his cell. The other prisoners didn't dare approach him. Ione appeared, smiling. "You put up a hell of a fight. I heard it took 36 stormers to bring you down." "Took 4 for me," she adds, sadness in her eyes. "But who's keeping score?" However, she brings bad news to Bruce. It seems Captain Cyan has declared that the cells are too crowded for his liking. Tomorrow they will be sent on a spacewalk, without suits. She looks at Batman and apologizes. He may not be able to go back to his love after all. As she looks at the ceiling, she remembers her own time when she fell in love years ago. She tells the story of how she left her planet to become a storm chaser. She was good at it. One day, she picked up a runaway, like she had done hundreds of times before. However, the transport was a long one, and after a few light years together, she somehow caught feelings. Eventually, she did her job, dropping him off on the Warstorm ship before leaving for her next mission. But midway through endless space, everything felt cold and lonesome. She finishes by telling Batman that when she went back for him a year later, she was told he died the same day she dropped him off, fried in the storm stacks. She tells Bruce that the reason she is a prisoner is because Sin knew she was coming to steal one of his prisoners and took her as a replacement. "Like I told you, Batman, love always gets you killed." Bruce lowers his gaze and replies, "I am Batman. It won't be love that gets me killed." As he slips out of the cuffs, he looks at Ione with determination. "And it damn sure won't be today." In seconds, a revolt begins, with Batman and Ione in charge, leading the prisoners against the guards to escape. Ione kicks one of the guards, takes his gun, and fires at them. Batman reminds her not to kill, but Ione laughs, replying to relax. Not everyone in this galaxy dies with a bullet in their head. Meanwhile, Punchbot enters the weatherman cabin, saying he has come to service the circuit. The weatherman looks down at him, saying he is a mere rundown Punchbot and not supposed to be there. Without hesitation, Punchbot punches him in the face, knocking him out cold. Through the communication devices, Punchbot tells Batman that the path is clear and the storm has been disabled. Batman asks where he is now and if he can reach the hangar. Bang! The echo of the bullet through Punchbot's metal freezes Batman for a second, and he immediately runs. Ione looks at him, unable to believe he is going after a damn bot. At the same time, the rest of the prisoners pressure Ione to leave, to forget about him. She replies that if it weren't for that man, they would all be walking in space by now, so they wait. Batman runs at full speed, taking down every enemy in his path. In seconds, Captain Sign appears and attacks him, but this time, Batman is prepared, evading the attack. As Punchbot bleeds through his circuits, Ione calls for the engines to fire up. She can no longer wait. Batman fights Captain Sin with everything he has, but it isn't enough. Sin grabs him by the neck, opens the hatch, and throws him into space. As he holds his breath, he wonders if Ione was able to escape. Cian watches him through the monitors as the ship takes off. Suddenly, a pod is launched. One of the weathermen tells Captain Sin it was sent from an unknown location, but there is no life form aboard. Sin is furious and orders them to shoot it down immediately. Meanwhile, connected to the mainframe, Punchbot, nearly out of power, sends a final message to Bruce. Thank you, Batman, for teaching Punchbot how to punch back. Days after Batman was saved by the sacrifice of Punchbot, he finds himself meditating among a tribe of Akari, who tell him that all his mind will find on this wasted planet is despair. As he walks through the ruins of what was once a great civilization, the voices of those natives return in his head. This was once a place where our people lived in harmony with the land and the beasts of the field, until the miners came. The Black Sun Mining Company claimed these grounds for their own. When we tried to rebel against our enslavement, they stole our children. Those of us who were left behind were used in the mines, until all that was once precious was stripped away. Then the Black Sun Company moved on to the next poor glimmer in the sky. Now we are but meat for the starving beasts, for the barbed wolves who devour as they please. Minutes later, Batman stops in front of a dark cave. As he takes a few steps inside, he sees it, the sharpness of the beast's eyes, glowing in the dark. He points at one of them and shouts, "You, the Alpha! Yes, you! The feast ends here." In seconds, Batman lunges toward the beast without any hesitation. Days later, a ship lands on the Akari planet. It's Ione, who's been looking for Batman. She asks the elders if they have seen a crazy guy dressed like a bird, and if for some reason they ate him. She wouldn't hold it against them. She just wants to stop chasing a ghost. In seconds, the Patriarch turns his sight and points to Ione's right. Up on a mountain, all cut and beaten, stands Batman, glorious beside the barbed wolves. He tells the elders that they should fear no more. The beasts agree to hunt other game, and with their blessing, they walk away. Ione looks at him, disappointed. She mentions that she was trying to rescue him, but guesses it's too late. Batman simply replies that he needs any scrap on the ship, as he may need to build a new suit. Ione stops and looks back at the beast. Hold up. You're not really thinking of bringing that wild mongrel aboard, but Bruce's mind is already made up. Weeks later, Ione knocks at Bruce's alcove, asking if they should move on. They've been hiding for days among the asteroids. As she steps inside, she sees Batman working on his new suit. Just a bit longer, he replies. Ione smiles back and mentions that they are light years away from the Slag Galaxy. He doesn't need to do this anymore. She gets closer, touches his face softly, and adds, "Let that be enough. All their captain wants is to see you dead. Why give him the opportunity when right in front of you, you have someone offering another chance?" In a moment of calm, they share a kiss. However, Bruce's workaholic habits ruin it, as he asks for just 5 more minutes. Ione looks at him with disappointment and walks away. Bruce tries to stop her, but she ignores him and replies, "She must be really something since you can't quit. That Gotham of yours must be really beautiful." As Bruce returns to work, he thinks to himself, for weeks, he has been working with technology he doesn't understand, and whatever this is with Ione, he understands even less. A week later, they finally reach the Slag Galaxy. Through the meteor storm, Batman is sent out with one purpose, to infiltrate Captain Sign's Warstorm ship. One of the weathermen informs him that a projectile has been detected, predominantly of organic material. Sign frowns. He knows well, it's Batman. The weatherman reminds him that they have only 20,000 stormers. If any of them are delivered damaged, the Black Sun Company would be most close, displeased. As the guards search for Batman, they confirm that the light circuits have been damaged, and so has the gravity field. In seconds, Batman jumps straight at them, taking cover among the boxes floating around. Suddenly, one of the Brank soldiers catches him. "That beheading bonus is mine," he shouts, shocking him out. Batman charges his left glove and punches him hard, sending him flying through the hangar. The others retaliate with more gunfire. As he takes cover with his cape, he charges his punch again, jumping straight at them. Minutes later, Ione lands. As she steps out, she sees the bodies of the guards knocked out. "The hangar is yours, Ione," says Batman. "Wolf, you with me." Before he could take the next step, he stops and looks back at her. "In case I fail, I want you to know—" Suddenly, she interrupts him. "Oh, we're sharing our feelings now? Let me go first." She punches him right in the face. "Do what you gotta do and get the hell out of my galaxy, Batman. Good talk." She looks at the guards who have given up and tells them that if they want to return to their previous lives before they were turned into stormers, they'd better get aboard. Many of them decide to follow her. Ione stops one and shoots him right in the face. "Not so fast, Nyrus. You think I'd forget about you?" In another sector of the ship, soldiers rush toward Batman's location. This gives some of the prisoners the opportunity to leave their posts and walk away unnoticed. However, from a pile of discarded bodies, a sound emerges. It's Punchbot, barely functioning. "Remember the lesson, Batman. May you punch with exemplary power." Back in the main corridor, Wolf and Batman carve a path through the soldiers trying to stop them. Wolf fights savagely against his enemies until Batman shouts, "Wolf, no killing." As the two move forward, Captain Cyan appears, jumping straight at Wolf and knocking him out. Batman throws a batarang to draw his attention. Cyan looks at him and asks, "Why did you adventure so far from home? Just to die by my hand?" Batman gets into a fighting stance, charging his knuckles. "I'm not telling you a damn thing. I'll show you." With speed, he closes in and punches Captain Sin with extreme force. At that moment, he remembers. "Damn it, stop playing with him," shouts the Irish mob boss. "Just kill the Batman. Kill him now." Suddenly, Batman whispers something. The Akarian leans in, asking what he's trying to say. Immediately, Batman kicks him in the face. But after doing so, he falls from the building, landing in a wasted container. As he loses consciousness, he whispers one last word. "Slag Galaxy." Cyan tries to counterattack, but Batman's days of training seem to be working just fine. He goes for the pressure point of an Akarian, striking the nerve clusters hidden under the jugular notches, reminding himself that Cyan is the kind of scum he hates most, someone who kidnaps people for a living. As he looks at his opponent, beaten, he clenches his fist, struggling to control himself and not continue. Suddenly, Ione's voice cuts in. "Without their captain, the stormers and weathermen are standing down. The ship is yours. Congrats, I guess. This is goodbye." But Batman stops her before she goes, and with a serious tone asks what she can tell him about the Black Sun Mining Company. In another sector of the Slag Galaxy, aboard the Orb of Orphans, Wrath, one of the Black Sun twin brothers, is choking a group of rebels to death. They had set out on a mission to rescue stolen children. As one of them desperately looks for a way out, the second twin, Whisper, appears. He leans in and whispers something into the rebel's ear. In seconds, the man's mind fills with uncontrollable rage, and he begins trying to rip his own face apart. Now, in the moon mining cluster Gulugara, a group of stormers lower the shield to transport newly acquired slaves. Instead, what appears through the teleport is Batman and Wolf. "You idiots," shouts the stormer in charge. "You got the order mixed up. I asked for an army. What the fuck are you supposed to be?" "The army," replies Batman. In seconds, he charges forward, destroying every bot in his path. Batman then grabs the stormer by the neck and shouts, "Tell the Blacksons I'm coming." Days later, that same stormer delivers the message to Wrath and is killed instantly. She then turns her attention to the holographic image of Captain Sin. "How is it possible that the Warstorm ship is coming for us?" she asks coldly, "when it was meant to be yours?" Cyan lowers his head in fear. "It was, Lady Wrath, until it was taken from me." "Oh yes," she replies, "by some lone alien, this Batman person." Desperate, Captain Sin tries to convince her he can fix this. He just needs a few stormers at his command to reclaim it. Wrath smiles darkly as she looks down. "And what cadre of stormers did Batman have when he liberated the Warstorm from you?" Sin's lips tremble as he answers, "Well, he had a wolf. Oh, yes, he brought his pet along, and let's not forget the rebellious Punchbot." "We've heard enough, Captain Sin," Wrath says. "You may receive our answer soon, delivered by my brother, Lord Whisper." Cyan screams in desperation as Whisper's words echo through the chamber. Wrath turns back to her counselors. "Does anyone know what planet do Batman's comes from? Anyone? No? No idea?" Someone be a dear and run a search on it for us. But in the meantime, let's find some ideas for who we'd like to have him kill. Or better yet, let's bring him to the Orb of Orphans, so my brother and I can have a word with this Batman. As the days pass aboard the Warstorm with Batman as its captain, they begin liberating different planets across the Slag Galaxy. The Orb of Orphans keeps sending stormers after him, but with the new technology he has acquired, he continues defeating them one by one. He is dismantling the Black Sun Mining Company's illegal slave trade. However, weeks earlier, Ione reminded him how stupid this whole vendetta is. He already acquired the training necessary to defend Gotham from any Akarian that might appear. So, you want to take on the Black Sun Mining Company, who you never even heard of until the other day. I've seen firsthand what they're doing to the people of this galaxy, replies Batman. Ione steps closer, furious, and reminds him that he doesn't know a damn thing. Tell me, oh wise Batman, why is it that the Farlagians hate the Venvils so much? Which eyeball are you supposed to lick when you greet an elder? On what planet are you required to kill your own children if they turn their backs on you? You're right, he replies. I don't have the first clue about any of that, but some things are universal. The Black Suns are kidnapping orphans to keep worlds in subjugation. If I walk away from that, then I have no right being Batman. She looks at him in disbelief, then turns away, telling him the Warstorm is his. If he wants to get killed, go ahead. But before she leaves, Batman asks her to please come with him. She was a bounty hunter who risked her life to rescue those same bounties. He knows she cares about the people of this galaxy. We can bring down the Black Suns together, he adds. Ione lowers her head, thinking. Then with an unsavory tone replies, "Fuck you, Batman. If you'd asked me to stay for you, for me, for the chance that there could maybe someday be an us, I might have actually been moon-brained enough to consider it. But you only want a storm chaser to save your stupid off-worlder ass, and this ain't for hire. Not to you." After Ione leaves, Batman stands silent for several minutes, thinking, until Punchbot and Wolf appear. "Where to next, Captain?" Batman raises his gaze, furious, and replies, "You're a punchbot, so find me someone to punch." Back in the present, Batman delivers a report to the Warstorm. The years of terror on this planet are over. Meanwhile, on an unknown planet, a pale, white individual is about to jump from a cliff when his communication device rings. "Yeah? No, I'm not doing anything," he answers. "A Batman? Never heard of one of those before. Who's hiring?" As he turns back from the edge, he notes that the Black Suns are the ones with the assignment. And while they're stingy when it comes to payment, he doesn't care. It's not like he does it for the money. He grabs a Morningstar Club weapon, and with calmness in his tone adds, "Got it. Alive but tenderized. Sure, I can do that." In seconds, he equips his helmet, revealing vivid red wings, and takes flight with a single objective in mind: an unknown storm chaser, alias the Thanagarian, wanted for murder and interstellar kidnapping charges by the Hawk Police and the Green Lanterns of 17 space sectors. That same day, the Warstorm ship, commanded by Batman himself, is suffering major damage. Punchbot, who is basically the only recruit left, is trying to control as many tasks as he can, but the attack is overwhelming. Batman makes the decision to go straight on the offensive in a smaller ship, drawing the enemy's attention toward himself. As he maneuvers through the battlefield, he reminds Punchbot to Zetabrig the defeated pilots into the brig. "Of course, Captain," replies Punchbot. "It is the law of the Warstorm. No one dies. Thought you should know that the Black Sun's Comet Bomber Corps are not likely to extend you the same courtesy." "I am used to that," replies Batman. Suddenly, Punchbot alerts him that an unidentified object is incoming, faster than the rest. In seconds, an explosion occurs, breaking communication. It's the Thanagarian. He tears Batman out of his ship, flying him across the battlefield. Desperate, he asks Punchbot what he's looking at. "Some type of metal-winged Hawkman?" "The Thanagarian," responds Punchbot. "According to the Warstorm database, he is a storm chaser of rather gruesome notoriety." "Thanagarian? We didn't train for this." As Batman struggles to fight, Punchbot loses communication, shouting that the metal wings are some sort of disruptor. Immediately, the Thanagarian goes in for a second attack. In that moment, Bruce can't stop thinking that maybe Ione was right. He should have gone home when he had the chance. Meanwhile, 26 million miles away, the bat signal burns in the cloudy sky. Commissioner Gordon, sadness in his voice, says, "Might as well turn it off. He's not coming." In the Batcave, alone in the dark, Alfred looks at the Wayne family pictures while the computer repeats the same message, scanning all deep space transmissions. No incoming messages found. Back in the Slag Galaxy, at Dart's saloon, a conversation about a prime bounty placed by the Blackson twins is overheard. The cantoneer mentions that there's 2 million creds for some plunic head called Batman, but he wouldn't recommend anyone taking it. Word around is that the Thanagarian already picked up the trail. The Thanagarian Thanagarian? Hell, then what's the hurry? Sounds like this Batman's as good as dead, mentions the client. Now, thrown into the middle of 142nd Street and Valentine Northeast corner, Batman lies confused, unable to understand what just happened. He believes he's back in Gotham. But as the citizens get closer, he sees it. The different races he's encountered across the Slag Galaxy. In seconds, he snaps awake as the Thanagarian is about to smash his head in. He rolls out of the way and orders Punchbot to redirect all Warbat attacks toward him, striking the enemy instead. For a moment, Batman gains the advantage, hitting him continuously until he creates some separation. Punchbot takes control of an enemy ship and, using Batman's own radar, redirects its course. Batman understands the plan and slams the radar unit onto the Thanagarian's chest. Seconds later, the ship crashes into him, creating an enormous explosion. However, as the Thanagarian emerges from the flames, Batman's mind keeps telling him that if this were Gotham, that attack would have been enough. At that same moment, Punchbot alerts him that the Warstorm ship is being overtaken. As the storm chasers begin to disembark onto the bridge, Wolf appears, jumping straight into them. Punchbot tries to reboot the defense shields, while also single-handedly waging a space battle against the remaining interceptors. Suddenly, Batman and the Thanagarian fly past the control room, locked in combat, crashing into another section of the ship. Now face to face, Batman blocks as many attacks as he can before releasing a canister to slow him down, but it proves highly ineffective. The Thanagarian punches Batman straight in the face, sending him crashing through the engine room. As he goes in for a second attack, Batman calls out to Punchbot, "Activate the storm shield. Patch it directly into my circuits." Punchbot argues that this could trigger an explosion from within, but in a moment of desperation, Batman shouts, "Just do it! Do it now!" Immediately, his suit begins to glow as the power of an entire battleship is infused into it. He grabs the Thanagarian by the shoulder and, with extreme force, punches him directly in the face. Minutes later, the fight comes to a conclusion with Batman as the winner, though not before he takes a hard hit to the chin from his opponent. Batman looks at the Thanagarian directly. "You have to be kidding. Not done with you. Your wings are inside the storm stacks. You want them? Go get them." Furious, the Thanagarian points at Bruce. "No metal wings, no armor, just meat and knuckles. Let's go." Batman ignores the provocation, and as he is teleported back to the control room, he shouts, "If you want a punching contest, you've come to the right place." In seconds, hundreds of punchbots surround the Thanagarian, challenging him to fight. Hours later, one of the Warbats is deployed. Punchbot tells Batman that it seems unwise to abandon the Warstorm ship. Bruce replies that it is better to leave, since it has become a target, and that now it is time to meet the Blackson twins. It is time to know who they are. As he travels from planet to planet, Batman tries to implement Gotham's methods of intimidation, but it doesn't seem to work. Either they refuse to talk, or they are simply too afraid. Now, in the moon mining cluster Hoodoo Goom, Whisper and Wrath visit one of the planets Batman previously liberated from them. As they walk through the village, they see that all mining operations have ceased. Before them stands the entire village, armed and no longer afraid. "You seek to revolt?" asks Wrath. "But know that the Blackson twins do not blame you for your foolishness. You have been misled. One has come amongst you from afar, an alien to our ways, spreading diseases against which you have no natural immunity, diseases like ambition and hope. He spreads these infections world to world, and then leaves you to fend for yourselves. Let those among you who are so afflicted come forward and receive their treatment free of charge. Do not be shy. You wish to rebel, yes? He is your chance. Do what he would have you do. Be the Batman." Hours later, a ship lands on the Warstorm bridge. Aboard is Ione, who asks the Thanagarian if he has seen Batman. While punching a bot, he growls, "You'll have to find your own storm to chase. The Batman is mine." She rests her back against the ship and adds, "You sure about that? You seem to have your hands full here." "This is me breathing, Ione. If I have to crush the face of every robot on the Warstorm, I'll damn well do it. And when I find the Batman, wherever he thinks he can hide, I will deliver him to the Blacksons as requested, alive. But rest assured, he will be a sack of shards, lying in a puddle of his own drizzling organs." As he walks toward Ione, she looks at him directly, pulls out a gun and says, "Yeah, you're right. I do believe it." At that same time, Batman, Wolf, and Punchbot finally arrive at the moon cluster Hoodoo Goom. As they walk through the ruins, they see bodies lying around mutilated. Suddenly they stop. In the distance they spot a severed arm, bloody, still holding the bat flag as a symbol of liberation. Punchbot, receiving all the footage of what happened here, later adds, "The footage shows one who simply spoke softly to people. That is all." Yet the effect of his whispers can only be described as, well, cannot be described at all. Hundreds of bodies lie massacred as far as the eye can see. Batman can only observe in silence as Punchbot continues. "The strong one, Roth, was responsible for some of this. The rest, the citizens, did to one another after they were whispered to." Batman kneels and grips one of the bat flags. How many people were on these worlds? Punchbot begins to make excuses about how long it will take to calculate, but Batman cuts him off sharply. "You already know, so just tell me." Punchbot looks directly at him and replies, 20 billions, give or take a few." No words come out of Bruce's mouth. He stands frozen in silence. Punchbot looks at Wolf and says, "We will give you a moment alone to collect your thoughts. Come, Warwolf." For minutes, Batman stands there clenching his fists, remembering Ione's warnings from before. Suddenly, her voice cuts in. He turns to face her. She says she heard what happened here. Bruce's mind goes blank. For a moment, he sees in Ione a way out, a life with her. But he doesn't have the courage to say it. She sees right through him, and before he can react, she raises a gun to his face. Hours later, at the Orb of Orphans, the sound of someone punching a sack of meat echoes through the halls. "I had been led to believe the Thanagarian was pursuing this particular bounty," says Wrath. "You may collect your payment on the way out, Stormchaser, though I suppose you've earned the right to stay and watch, if you like." Well, it appears our fun will be rather short-lived anyway, since my brother has been dying to have a word with the Batman. Hours later, after Wrath finishes with Batman, Whispers takes over, whispering in his ear as the blood drips through his mask. At that same time, Ione is walking through the corridors, leaving Bruce behind, when a group of storm chasers asks her where she wants his payment loaded. She ignores them and keeps walking toward what looks like a control room. One of the guards mentions that an unidentified ship is approaching and orders the gunner to be ready. But before the order can be given, Ione puts a bullet through his head and unlocks the hangar. There, she is approached by Punchbot and Wolf, who is growling at her with rage. The wolf looks like he wants to eat my face off. "Keep that mud away from me, Punch Bucket." Earlier that day, as Ione points her gun at Batman, Bruce mentions that he understands. It is not personal. She is just there to collect the bounty. With a grim tone, she shouts, "Damn you, Batman. But no, I came here to help you, you stupid idiot." And what do I find? You're thinking about giving up, aren't you? I can tell by the look in your eyes. She knows that he can't beat the Blackson twins, but that doesn't mean he gets to stop. He should look around at the hundreds of bodies lying dead. These people died believing in him. They were crazy enough to believe in the power of the stupid Batman. And damn you to all the hells. So am I. She mentions that back on the Warstorm, she had the Thanagarian right in her sights, ready to shoot him down. If it were the old her, she would have done it without hesitation, but she missed, all because she couldn't stop thinking about his stupid no-killing rule. But this is bigger than any of them. Batman looks directly at her and mentions that she is right. He would rather die on one of these moons than let this fight go unfinished. So right now, if she wants to help him, she should do her job. Be a storm chaser and take me in. Back in the present, Ione, Wolf, and Punchbot run through the Orb of Orphans corridors, destroying every enforcer in their way, while she explains to Punchbot that the plan was to bring Batman aboard. To them, Punchbot immediately recognizes the danger of the situation. Batman might be able to resist Wrath's punches, but against Whispers, there is no training that could have prepared him for a mental fight. At that same moment, the Blackson twins are getting desperate. "Why is this taking so long?" asks Wrath, furious. "Why is he still alive? No one has ever endured Brothers Whispers for so long. What is so special about this Batman?" As she looks around to ask their advisor, she notices that Whisper's powers have long since reached them, killing every single one of them. Suddenly, they hear a loud explosion. Wrath tells Whispers to finish here. She is taking care of whatever that is. She looks back one last time and shouts angrily, "Stop playing with your food and finish the Batman." But as soon as she leaves, Batman reacts and stands up. Whisper's face is filled with horror. He can't believe it. How does a person resist his mental abilities? Suddenly, Bruce gets close to him and whispers in his ear with a grave tone, "I am Batman." Meanwhile, up on the bridge, Wolf, Ione, and Punchbot are taking care of every stormer in their path. Then Wrath appears, her veins exposed, showing how furious she is. This galaxy is full of imbeciles. But then I remember I do this because I enjoy it, punching Wolf so hard that it sends him flying out of the hangar. Ione counterattacks rapidly as Wrath tries to grab her, but she slips under her legs and with agility turns around, pointing at her face. Without hesitation, she blasts Wrath at close range. However, the damage is ineffective. She grabs Ione's weapon, crushes it with her bare hands, and kicks her right in the chest, sending her flying across the room. gloom. You have the audacity to think you can stand against me. I am Wrath Blackson, heir to the Empire. Who in the name of the moons are you? In seconds, somebody grabs her shoulder tight. I am Punchbot, and with extreme force, hits her right in the chin. However, Wrath responds back. Ione gets in and grabs her by the neck, while Punchbot lands a few more hits. Suddenly, the scariest scream is heard across the whole ship. It's Whispers. Wrath tries to assist him, but Wolf appears at that moment and grabs her by the neck, biting her tight. Immediately, an explosion catches everyone's attention, and through the smoke, as the reflection of the logo appears, it's Batman. He looks directly at Wrath, who can't believe he is alive, and jumps directly into battle. Now face to face, he looks at her and shouts, "You have eaten well. Your feast ends now," punching her right in the face. As she falls to her knees, she keeps screaming that they are the Blacksons. They will never fall. "We own all of you. You people will have to kill me to end this, and you cannot kill." Batman looks at her and replies that she might be right about that, but there is one guy he can't get to shut up, throwing Whispers into the same cell with her, unable to resist his own brother's mental powers. Hours later, throughout the Slag Galaxy, thousands of children are being returned to their planets. As Batman and Ione look at the heartwarming reunion, she mentions that without Stormers to chase, she is out of a job. However, Batman reminds her that while the Blacksons were monsters, they were the only law known to this galaxy. Without them, there will be chaos. Before he can say the next sentence, she walks away, mentioning that Punchbot already found a ship for him to return home. Batman turns back, unable to say goodbye. Suddenly, Ione puts a hand on his shoulder and, smiling at him, says, "You are such an idiot," before sharing one last kiss. Days later, on the streets of Gotham, the Irish mob is squeezing small business owners for protection, and if for some reason they reject the offer, well, their new associates will take care of things. At that same time, aboard a brand new ship, Punchbot communicates, asking if she is ready for deployment, while she says to herself, "I can't believe I am doing this." Back home, Batman finally appears. The Akarian can't believe it. He should be dead. Batman looks at him, smiling, and says, "Okay, let's try this again," and in seconds, knocks him out cold. As he looks at the sky, he smiles, thinking to himself that out there, a new legend is growing.